But as things have been happening in the community, from a local global scale, and becoming more involved with activism, this character, for me, I think I wanted to have some way, which I know that creative is my way of communication. So I decided to develop a character and a storyline that could identify with things that are going on in the scope. And the character does have a lot of aspects of myself, really. So we just kind of
So in the climate that we're in right now, and especially everything that's going on with the LGBTQ rights and some of the things that we know possibly can be rolled back, what are you hoping that your story's impact will have on today's climate?
Well, I know I mentioned early on that I first started conceptualizing Steele almost 4 years ago. And in that time, LGBT marriage wasn't legal. There was still a lot of things from a federal and state level that was being challenged. And so, being identified as part of the LGBTQ community and knowing that there's people that do not have voices and they do not have necessarily the exposure to understand the significance of what's going on. And we have to have allies. We can't do this, we can't stand alone, we need allies. And so sometimes, I know my wife and I, prior to us getting married, we met people that primarily probably wasn't too good on feeling good about same gender loving relationships, but when they met us, they're like, you know what, I'm not so cool with this, but you guys I like, you guys I get, you guys I'm drawn to. So when you have those opportunities to magnetize and help someone to understand something better, and sometimes you have to do it in another form of communication that they can understand. Being a visual artist, to me, it just made sense for me to make something visually that I could communicate with across the globe and have a global reach. So that's why Louddmouth TV is so important, because it's an online platform. It doesn't restrict me to have to, be just in one code, but I can direct that information and, put relevant content into the storylines.
So when you're talking about your storyline, so let's talk about beyond the verdict. What other storylines are you looking at doing as far as the Steele Gray series is concerned?
Well, definitely, there's some very, very, very important things that are significant to me, from mental illness, sex trafficking, domestic violence. Of course, a lot of social justice, things of that nature that is happening from the legality system. But even that, from a community level, there are things that people don't understand. Even from employment, you may live in a state where you don't even recognize that they can discriminate and you can lose your job because you identify LGBTQ. Transgender issues, definitely. And my character is an androgynous character. So most people are still trying to maybe identify all of these. There's so many acronyms now. I get to the Q and I'm like, I can't help everybody beyond the Q. I don't know how to find everything myself. But the Q for queer. But beyond that, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender is what most people commonly understand and associate. And so my character, Steele Gray, is an androgynous female. But if you look at her on the surface, you might identify her as either transgender or, possibly just straight male. But she is an androgynous, female. And because of that, I'm really challenging with the character to touch on things from that lens that a lot of our transgender brothers and sisters can feel an alliance of a voice. And hopefully, it would help those who are not necessarily LGBTQ have a softer thought or a warmer outlook on how maybe that person feels on what they're going through.
So on that note, we want to say thank you so much for letting us be the first person to screen in St. Petersburg. So thank you for the interview.
Thank you so much.